Here's more wrestling news for April 6, 2022, and your headlines for this afternoon include Shawn Michaels helped produce WWE Raw match, ex-WWE writer buries Elias' repackaging, WWE told Stone Cold Steve Austin not to flip the bird at WrestleMania 38, WWE wrestler tries to convince The Undertaker to come out of retirement, why John Cena wasn't present at WrestleMania, Young Bucks react to Kevin Owens using their pose during WWE Dark Match against Cody Rhodes, major update on Rick Boogs' WrestleMania injury, Jeff Jarrett does not want to see ROH become AEW Lite, Jerry Lawler returning to WWE Raw commentary desk, Bexar County, Texas declares March 16th as Thunder Rosa Day, and more. We are starting off with Raw, as Braun Breaker's NXT title win was a huge moment for him and NXT 2.0, and WWE wisely brought in names who know him best to produce the bout. That's according to Fightful Select, who have learned that Vice President of Talent Development and NXT trainer Shawn Michaels produced the match, as did WWE Performance Center head coach Matt Bloom. This is a rare instance of NXT producers working on Raw matches, and came about because both men were already in Dallas for WrestleMania 38 weekend. It's also noted that despite an influx of NXT talent on the main roster as of late, the NXT 2.0 producers haven't been working on these matches, which have been left for main roster producers. The word is that WWE has been short-staffed on producers as of late, as Tyson Kidd has been on hiatus, though that ended last week, and that Devon Dudley remains out after complex surgery in mid-February. With Pat Buck quitting the company following WrestleMania, WWE is now yet another producer down, but WWE had a helping hand this week thanks to Michaels and Bloom. Raw saw a huge moment for Breaker, and it saw a huge moment for Ezekiel, who debuted on this week's show, interrupting Kevin Owens. Of course, this Ezekiel is actually Elias, and fans haven't been sold on the character change so far. It's not just the crowd who aren't pleased to see what's going on, as during Legion of Raw, former WWE writer Vince Russo bashed the new character and even questioned if WWE had deliberately set up this gimmick to fail. Saying there's a right way and a wrong way to do things, Russo said that the Ezekiel character is certainly the wrong way, and that's a sentiment shared by countless members of the WWE universe. Last year, it was reported that WWE was close to finalizing a new character for Elias, which was later scrapped for being deemed too similar to Macho Man Randy Savage, but time will tell just how long Ezekiel sticks around. At WrestleMania, Stone Cold Steve Austin had his first match in 19 years, and more than lived up to the expectations. Taking big bumps and delivering plenty of stunners, Austin seemed identical to the same man who raised hell during the Attitude Era, but there was one aspect of the old Stone Cold WWE didn't want to see. On his podcast, McAfee discussed watching Austin rehearse his WrestleMania entrance and the strict instructions he was given. "I got to watch this dude's entrance within an empty stadium or whatever. He goes right up to the top rope, fingers straight up in the air. And then I see 3 producers running over to him. Can't do that, can't do that. So he does it again. Can't do that." He was like, all right. So he just put his fist up or whatever. Then as I was watching him at the show, I was wondering, there's no way he keeps that middle finger down. The middle finger from Steve Austin is coming at some point. And then he had a couple. Austin without his iconic middle fingers is like The Rock without his eyebrow. And while WWE didn't want the middle fingers as part of their PG product, banning the gesture is easier said than done when dealing with the rattlesnake. Now at WrestleMania 36, The Undertaker defeated AJ Styles in a Boneyard match, which proved to be a fitting end to the dead man's career as a wrestler. After years of underwhelming in-ring performances, the cinematic Boneyard match allowed the Phenom to end on a high, but that could have been different had Styles got his way. Speaking to Wrestling Inc., the Phenomenal One discussed the dead man and said he once tried to convince The Undertaker to come out of retirement. "I think we all knew that once the Boneyard match got the reaction that it did, that might be it. I called, and he didn't return my calls because he knew, hey, he's gonna convince me to have another match." Well, The Undertaker didn't return AJ's calls. He did tell fans to never say never during his recent Hall of Fame induction, and has previously said he misses competing at WrestleMania. With that said, WWE's Last Ride documentary series showed fans just how important it was for The Undertaker to end his career on a high, and after achieving just that in the Boneyard match, don't expect one last match from the Phenom. WrestleMania 36 was also the last time John Cena competed at WrestleMania, albeit in the bizarre Firefly Funhouse match, as John has become more difficult for WWE to book. This year, like last year, Cena didn't appear during WrestleMania, and we now know why the 16-time world champion wasn't around. PW Insider has learned that Cena wasn't present at WrestleMania because he's filming in New Mexico for the new Coyote vs. Acme film, in which he will play Wile E. Coyote's former boss at Acme. Being busy with his entertainment career is the same reason Cena didn't appear at WrestleMania 37, as at that time he was filming the Peacemaker series, as his success out of the ring has made it more and more difficult for WWE to work with one of their biggest ever stars. On this week's Raw, Cody Rhodes cut his first WWE promo in a very long time, but fans would have to wait until after the show to see him wrestle. Defeating Kevin Owens in a post-Raw dark match, fans at the arena took to social media to note that Owens had a bit of fun and posed in a manner similar to the Young Bucks during their bout. In the not-so-subtle nod to Cody's former home in AEW, the Bucks have now responded, as on Twitter they changed their Twitter bio to "What up, Kev?" It's hard to think of anyone other than the prizefighter that the Bucks could be referring to, as they've got a pattern of referencing WWE moments in their bio. Like Cody, Kevin Owens has a long association with the Bucks from before his WWE days, and while the former Universal Champion didn't join AEW earlier this year as once predicted, he hasn't forgotten about the Bucks. Rick Boogs certainly had a worse time at WrestleMania than Cody Rhodes, as during the WrestleMania Saturday opening SmackDown Tag Team Championship match, he suffered a torn patellar tendon during the show. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer reported that Boogs will be out for a couple of months, but can still, in theory, appear to play guitar for Shinsuke Nakamura. With Elias being rebranded as Ezekiel on this week's Raw, Boogs is now the sole guitarist on the main roster, but time will tell if Boogs continues to make appearances on his road to a full recovery. It's been a little over a month since Tony Khan announced his purchase of Ring of Honor in one of the biggest moves the AEW president has made to date. Details are still sketchy about Khan's vision for ROH, though he has confirmed that Samoa Joe will be appearing on both shows, and he's been given some sage advice from a WWE Hall of Famer. Jeff Jarrett knows a thing or two about starting and running a promotion, as he did just that with TNA, and at the ad-free Super Show media scrum, Jarrett said that Khan will need to make it clear the differences between AEW and Ring of Honor. Jarrett said that if ROH is just AEW Lite, essentially more of the same as what fans see in AEW, then he doesn't think that will be a recipe for success, but if Khan can bring something new to the table, then he wishes him the best with his new acquisition. In just over 3 years, Tony Khan has gone from an unknown among wrestling fans to one of the most influential names in the industry today, but it remains to be seen how he fares as the president of AEW, as well as the owner and head booker of Ring of Honor. Back to WWE, and on this week's show, Corey Graves and Carmella had a very public display of affection, mere days before the duo are set to tie the knot. The Graves-Carmella wedding will happen next week, meaning the savior of misbehavior won't be around to commentate on Raw. During Raw Talk, WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler announced that he will be filling in the role in Graves' absence, and we'll have to see how Lawler fares at his first night behind the Raw announcer's desk in nearly 2 years. And we're ending today with AEW, as Thunder Rosa captured the Women's World Championship last month, and she's now being celebrated in her home state of Texas. After capturing the title on the March 16th edition of Dynamite, Thunder Rosa was in Bexar County this week, where it was declared that March 16th will be Thunder Rosa Day from now on. Rosa appeared with face paint on for the confirmation ceremony and gave a speech about her career, and after winning the title in her adopted hometown of San Antonio, Texas, March 16th has now gotten even more important to the reigning AEW Women's World Champion. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.